Does the technology allow us to have a question from next door?
Oh.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Hi.
Ooh. Okay.
It's like a Ouija board, this, isn't it?
Is that working?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd just like, you've talked about secondary schools and grammar schools, but I'd just like to sort of think about £50,000 worth of debt for our young people if they go to university, and what you think about the commodification of university education, about the rise of mental health problems in universities, where students are finding it really hard to engage with their studies, knowing that they're going to come out with this massive debt. How can they take risks? How can they, push forward like people have in history to, think about new ways of living when all they're worried about is vocational degrees, if you like, and how they're going to pay this debt off that is £200 a month in interest.
I think we're clear about the question, if we don't mind moving on to some comments from...
Well, just on that, look, young people have disproportionately borne the brunt of what's happened in the last few years. The scrapping of the educational maintenance allowance, a tiny amount of money to support working class people with the aspiration to stay on an education, the trebling of tuition fees, punishing aspiration with debt, the cutting of youth services, often the first to go, the lack of affordable housing disproportionately affects younger people, cuts to social security disproportionately affects younger people, the lack of secure jobs, underemployment, zero-hour contracts, all disproportionately affect younger people. A slide in income of 10% amongst the younger generation over the last few years. So we've got to see that debt in the broader context of what young people have had to suffer. And I think education is a social good. I think we all benefit, of course, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, all of us depend on that, if you like. And what we've seen as a consequence of tuition fees, and we don't talk about this enough, one example is a massive reduction in courses. If you compare to Scotland, where they don't have tuition fees, there's a much broader range of courses. We've seen a stark reduction as people make choices on the basis, if you like, of financial transactions. How am I going to make sure I get a certain amount of money because of the amount of debt I'm going to have? So people often go to universities they wouldn't otherwise go to, again, because of that fear of debt. We've seen a massive collapse in part-time numbers. This is one of the things we don't talk about. Tens of thousands of fewer part-time workers since tuition fees were introduced. And these are overwhelmingly working-class people over the age of 25. Will Houghton, the writer, has said it's one of the biggest blows to social mobility we've had for a generation in this country, and we don't talk about that enough. And of course, that's the other point. Debt, we know the link between debt and mental distress is well documented. And if you further suppress young people's living standards by forcing them to pay a certain amount for many, many years, that means they're less likely to settle down and have a family. The evidence in the United States is people wait longer and longer because of the cut to their living standards. It means obviously mortgages are more out of reach because they have less disposable income, which is, again, home ownership among the young generation is in a state of collapse in this country, down by about 35% for people under the age of 40. And it means, well, if you talk about entrepreneurship, again, people are less likely to take risks if they have less disposable income as well. So it's a terrible impact, and we've seen it in the United States and we've seen it here. I think we should fight for the principle that education is a social good, and I think we should fight against an injustice that says that younger people, some of whom weren't even born or won't have been born when the financial crash happened, are going to still end up paying for it for many, many years to come. The next generation is our future. The whole future of this country depends on it. And if we keep punishing young people in the way we're punishing them today, we're not just imperiling them, we're imperiling the entire future of this country as well.
Thank you. One more. I think we have time for one more brief question and brief comment, but let's take it from next door. Barley Room, any more questions?
You've talked very eloquently about passion to fight for the things that you care for. I don't know whether you're aware of how passionately the people of Farnham are fighting to overturn the dogma of Waverley Council. Is it not ironic that just at this time, we've unveiled the statue of William Cobbett when the fight is really going, well, where is it going?
Do you have a question?
Because we're having to pay to fight.
What way would the council doing exactly?
Maybe you're not aware of what the fight is.
There are a lot of local issues, but I think that is a very good spot to draw the evening to a close, because you will not... You will...
But keep fighting, just quickly, keep fighting.
Keep
the
fighting.
great tradition of William Cobbett.
Yeah.
Keep fighting Waverley Council and overcome whatever they've done, which is bad. Okay?
Good answer. There we are. We must draw the proceedings to a close. I'm sure there are lots more questions, but we can't keep here all night. We can't keep Owen going all night. Two things to end with. One is, if you don't mind going in the room at the end after we finish, just to perhaps have a little chat. But since we are here representing the Mayor of the People's Republic of Farnham with us, I think we may be tempted to offer you a multi-entry visa. If you're willing to accept this honour. And I would like to ask our the President of the William Cobbett Society, to finish our proceedings for us.
Will you be able to hear me in the Barley Room?
No, but they will if you put this on.
Thank you very much. Well, we've had a splendid evening, and we have lots of thanks to give to various people. Sophie and her students, I understand, have put an enormous amount of work to help to get this evening, make it the success it's been. And we really do thank them. They worked virtually all day, I think. The Maltings have done us proud, I think, in providing us with 2 rooms at the same time and hosting us in this wonderful way. What we must thank, of course, are William Cobbett, who, rising from the grave, has spoken with an eloquence that we could only expect of him. But he has been matched and rivaled by our speaker tonight, our guest tonight, who has spoken with all the qualities that I think dear Mr. Cobbett would agree with and regard as necessary in this present world. He is forthright. He is opinionated. He is eloquent. He puts his views punctually and hard. Cobbett was always criticised, Mr. Cobbett, you will know, in your lifetime, for being savage and remorseless. A rhinoceros of a journalist was one mention that was made of you. Well, I wouldn't quite call Owen a rhinoceros. He argues with fact and opinion, which is well backed up, as indeed Cobbett did. Cobbett was a great man of facts. It's often thought that he was just opinionated, but he always had facts at his fingertips. Owen, too, as I've learned this evening, also has facts at his fingertips and is prepared to back his very strong opinions with very powerful arguments from fact. And this is important. Byron said of Cobbett that he was like the tiger, that he would see his prey and then he would spring and seize it. But occasionally the prey would escape and then Cobbett would retreat into the undergrowth with a growl. Well, Owen, I hope you won't retreat growling to London or to Stockport tonight. You've savaged quite a few things, and you've enlightened us in many ways about not only your opinions, but about the world in which we live, and indeed the world in which Mr. Cobbett lived. We must thank you very much indeed for a splendid evening.
A big round of applause to the organisers who put this together. They've been absolutely fantastic, so please give them a big round of applause. And there, over here, over there.
Well, Thank you all very much for coming. It's been an extremely stimulating evening. The meeting will now draw to a close, and if Owen doesn't mind spending a couple of minutes chatting to the group in there, fairness will be achieved to some small degree. But I really do appreciate you coming and giving us a splendid evening. Thank you very much.